Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Jen, and we are here with Morgan Herrick. We are from the Fab team, and this is called Eat Your Damn Food. And we have a really important topic today, and that is preparing for the holidays when you're struggling with an eating disorder. So, Morgan, thanks so much for being here. I know you
Of course.
understand this topic intimately from both sides
Mhm.
as a professional and as somebody who has struggled herself. And
Mhm.
what would you want to say to people, even just in general, about holidays and like struggling with symptoms during the holidays?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, first of all. But I think the biggest thing that comes to mind when I think about the holidays and struggling with your relationship with food and body is remembering that it's just another Thursday. For example, for Thanksgiving. That's something my life coach, Allison Smella, would always tell me every year before Thanksgiving or before a holiday. Like, it's just another day.
Oh gosh. And what does that do when you think it? Because I can kind of, I almost felt like my shoulders go, like, oh yeah, like we put so much pressure on
Mhm.
this day, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes our Thursday Thanksgiving does look different than an ordinary Thursday. People have family in town they haven't
Mhm.
seen, or different foods, or
Right.
maybe desserts they've been avoiding. But in the end, it truly is a Thursday where you still get an opportunity to eat your meals consistently. So when
Mhm.
Allison, who we love Allison, would say that to you, what did that help with?
I feel like it just gave me permission to just show up for myself in my recovery just as I would on a regular day,
Yeah.
because for Thanksgiving specifically, a lot of people are always like, oh, I'm going to save up room until the big meal. I'm not going to eat
Hmm.
all day. And that
Hmm.
would just be so triggering. So to look
Yeah.
at it like it's just another day, it's just another Thursday, I can, even if nobody else is, I can have breakfast as I normally would. I can have my
Hmm.
morning snack. So,
That's awesome advice because sometimes, and maybe this gets us into the overeating or binging part, whether,
mhm,
geez, you struggle with an eating disorder or not, right? It's almost like this holiday has become very associated with way overdoing it, right?
mhm,
And particularly if you're somebody who struggles in this way, it's like that doesn't work so well, right? To kind of set yourself up for the overeating and binging. So when you would sort of plan your day as like, hey, this is a day, a regular recovery day, no matter what anybody else in my life is doing, and people kind of do some kind of crazy things on this holiday.
mhm,
How did that help you take care of you in a different way when you would start with that breakfast and like keep
mhm.
things structured?
Yeah, I mean, I know that when I don't have breakfast, don't have lunch, I end up in the past, I would end up binging at night. And even today,
Mm,
if I have an incomplete breakfast, I find I'm a little snackier at night, which is fine. But it's in the past when it would lead to a binge, that's when it was a problem for me. And so
mm,
setting myself up in the morning, having a proper, typical,
mm,
balanced meal and balanced snack, and then looking
mm,
at the Thanksgiving dinner as just another meal,
mm.
I was able to fuel myself throughout the day and not end up binging at night.
Yeah, that's awesome. So really like keeping the consistency from the
Mhm.
moment you wake up
Yeah.
and again, like you do you focus on what works for
Right.
you. Something that's coming to mind, I'm thinking about a client that I was working with not so long, like last Thanksgiving, but her family was having the big meal at a strange time in the day, right?
Mhm.
And it was like, how do I navigate that? We're doing a three
Right.
o'clock dinner, and what do I do with that, Dr. Jen? And I think, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts. One thing we definitely did is we talked a lot about the Thanksgiving to
Mhm.
prepare for that. So if anybody's listening to this that you haven't really thought it through, sometimes just having like a little mini plan goes
Mm-hmm.
really far. And so Morgan, what would you say to people who are like, oh gosh, how do I navigate that one? Like a 3 o'clock
Right.
dinner.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we do. I think mine's at like 2:30. That's usually when we have Thanksgiving dinner. And so there are a couple ways to go about it, but I think the main thing is just continuing to listen to your body, So, like, instead of maybe planning to have a super small lunch, having a lunch, eating what your body needs at that time, like at noon, if that's your usual lunch time, and then when 2:30, 3 o'clock comes around and the food's in front of you for the meal, enjoying some to whatever capacity your body wants them at that time, because leftovers are a blessing,
They are, right?
Yeah. And that's something I would always tell myself too, because I struggled a lot with wanting to overeat the Thanksgiving desserts or Christmas cookies, that kind of thing. And so reminding myself that I can always have more tomorrow. I don't need to eat all of them today, because then I get to enjoy it tomorrow if I have some leftover.
Right. It's bringing back lots of different people I've worked with over the years. I remember one client that I worked with, we really talked a lot about coping skills at the holidays, like along with like the meal plan and the consistency, but how she was going to take a break, from all the family and all the chaos. And, she was a little more introverted. So we would set up this coping skill where she would volunteer to walk the dogs, even though it was cold in the state she was getting back to. But she was like, oh my gosh, this is my time where I get to step out of this, but like not in this dramatic way, in this like helpful, I'll go walk the dogs in the snow. And she was so grateful for that. But we really had prepared, like, how was she going to take care of herself and give herself breaks? And she didn't have to be every second with the family. So I don't know if there's anything you would offer around, having people think about some coping skills, because look, like holidays are sometimes a mixed thing for all of us, right? There's a lot of great, but there can be sometimes an intensity to it.
Absolutely. And I think in particular around holidays where you have extended family members, that they're not aware of maybe your struggles around food and body, and they'll make comments maybe about their own food or body or how they're eating, what they're wearing, whatever. It's so important to set those boundaries and coping skills. And going on a walk was actually one of my biggest things. I would actually say to my dad, like, hey, can we go on a little walk together, so I could just have some time with him away from everything crazy. And then another thing, we would have Thanksgiving dinner at my house typically. And so I would ask my mom ahead of time, can I sit next to you at the dinner table so that I could have some extra moral support or just some emotional support next to me, and I would put myself kind of on the opposite end of people that I knew might be triggering to me. So
I forgot about that one. That is a great one. So anybody listening is like, be strategic around the table, because you're trying to set yourself up to have the best holiday possible. And I would say that's one other coping skill I really love. And I use it myself in lots of situations, including holidays, but to set an intention for ourselves of like, what are we really trying to, I want to say accomplish, but like, what are we really intending? It's like the food and the communion with other people. It's all part of the experience, but like, what is it? If you were setting an intention of what you really want from this day, it's like, what is that? And then that gets to also be your anchor as you move through the day. And then telling maybe a therapist or a friend, or like, you had your mom and dad that were huge support. So then it can just sort of like help remind you of that intention, right?
Absolutely. And I like to think of the holidays like everyone has a different intention, but my intention would always be to find some joy, in being with family and being around yummy food, because I love food. I'm a foodie, and I would always like tell myself, you can't eat that, you can't eat that. But giving myself permission to eat, my Thanksgiving dinner is my favorite meal ever. So giving myself the permission to finally eat that gave me joy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I love that. And then the next day or the next meal, not doing what I call the food chest, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, I had some different foods outside of my typical meal plan. Now I'm going to restrict. And you
Mhm.
hear lots of people saying things like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'll start the diet tomorrow, la la la. Like, all of that is also a
Mhm.
setup, right? So
Yeah.
trying to just jump back into, okay, again, now it's a Friday, right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
Exactly. We
Okay.
still need to eat.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, Morgan, thank you so much. I hope, what you heard today, if some of these tips were helpful. We actually do have a blog that we specifically wrote around this topic as well.
Mhm.
So you absolutely could check out our Fab website for that blog and also sign up for our newsletter. All right, Morgan,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a happy holiday.